Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Kristiina Ojuland is currently a member of the European Parliament from Estonia. However, her career is much more extensive than that. So I want to say just a few words about her background. Ms. Ojuland holds a degree in law from Tartu University and has studied at the Estonian School of Diplomacy in Tallinn, the Institute of International Studies in Geneva, and the Vienna School of International Relations. She has served in the Estonian Ministry of Justice, at the Draft Legislation Departments, and in the Estonian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. From 1995 until 2002, she was a Foreign Secretary of the Estonian Reform Party, as well as the member of the Estonian Parliament. From 2002 until 2005, she served as Minister of Foreign Affairs to Finland, and later chaired the European Affairs Committee in the Estonian Parliament, becoming Vice Speaker of the Parliament in 2007. Since 2009, Ms. Ojuland has served as a member of the European Parliament. The lecture topic she's chosen today is Crisis, Conflict, and Culture in the EU-Russia relations. Please join me in a very, very warm welcome for Ms. Kristiina Ojuland. Thank you.
Momentum. And I'm a little bit confused because I'm not sure, should we speak about the politics, what is happening right now in Russia, after the elections, the reality, or should we keep this discussion more on theoretical angle? So, but nevertheless, I think that we cannot really avoid the facts and events what have happened before the Duma elections, and what is happening right now in the streets of many Russian towns and cities, not only in Moscow, where today the latest information is coming that almost 600 people are arrested. And a lot of demonstrations are going on. And of course this brings us to think in parallel about the very I would say it's a very specific political culture what we experience from Russian Federation in our relationship with the European Union. And when we heard from the previous speaker the differences of the languages of the European people, then here in this point we should think also the difference of the political language and the difference of the political culture in Russia. And this the question is that this political language what Russia is using, which is basing on their very specific political culture, is quite different from the European thinking, political thinking, and from the European culture. And I'm not only referring on the lack of democracy, I'm not only referring the different approach on human rights or the lack of rule of law in Russian Federation, but it's more bigger, it's more broader, different thinking. Like just a few days, for example, before the Duma elections, the Patriarch of Moscow and the whole Russia, Kirill, made a statement that for the collapse of the Soviet Union was the biggest loss for Russian people, and the biggest loss of the Russian territorial powers. So you see that we are in the beginning of the 21st century, and it would be most strange to hear, for example, the similar thinking from the, I don't know, the British politicians or the British religious leaders, or when they would claim about the loss of the big imperium. Or it would be very strange, impossible to imagine that, for example, the well, I don't know, Sweden, for example, Swedish religious leaders would claim about the loss of Finland or Norway. You see, this kind of imperialistic instinct in Russian political thinking and in Russian political culture is something very, very basic, which we have to take into account in the European Union when we have the negotiations with our Russian colleagues, or if we are building the strategic relationship with the Russian Federation. So, and here we are. This different political culture, the different attitude is very often also expressed in their political languages. Well, just another example. 3 weeks ago in Strasbourg, when we had a meeting with ambassador of the Russian Federation, with Mr. Chisov, who was meeting the members of the EU-Russia delegation, when he sincerely said that Russia is a mature democracy. What the European Union has, what kind of question marks we have in this respect. So you see, this is sort of, it's not, I don't think that it is sort of self-defense from the part of the Russian ambassador. It's simply their political culture, the part of the political culture which is expressed in their languages. This is a part of political thinking that it's imperialistic thinking, and it's sort of ignorant thinking, I would say. And when we try to think about back to the history and try to find out where from this kind of different political thinking, the different political culture is coming from. Because Russia is naturally, for me, it's a European country. It looks, well, it's a part of course, big part of the territories is in Asia and Far East. But nevertheless, most major cities are in the western part of Russia, and most of Russian people, if you have seen the gallops, the polls, then they consider themselves still Europeans. But still, now the question is why this political thinking is so, and the political culture is so different from the rest of Europe, and where from it comes. If you would see the modern history of Russia, what could be considered from the times of the Peter the Great, who was the Tsar who really brought principal changes into, in that time, Russian political culture, when he reorganized the political structures, and even he reorganized the most elementary things like the appearance of the politicians, when he asked to cut down the bears and then to dress more in European ways and so on, so on. When we look into these times when Russia started to Europeanize through architecture, if you go to St. Petersburg, which is the city, the beautiful city, really the pearl, I would say, in this part of Europe, then you see that a lot of elements of real European cultural elements were introduced in that time in Russia. Not only architecture, it was about music, it was about literature, and of course it was also the try about the changes of political thinking. But at the same time, if you see how brutal was the domestic politics in parallel with all this process, and how little was the cost of human life in that time in Russian Federation, then you can immediately make the parallels with nowadays. Because the cost of human life was, well, it was zero, and it's more or less the same today also. And this is also a very, very important element in Russian domestic political culture. If you look, for example, the tens, perhaps even hundreds of cases of detentions, if you see how Magnitsky, the young lawyer, was beaten to the death in Russian custody 2 years ago, so it's and then of course many other aspects. I'm not speaking about the legislation in the field of labor protection and so on. So it's a big question that why this political culture did not change, even if the sort of appearance started to change from the Peter the Great times. And I don't know if anybody would give the complex answer to this question. Many people would claim that, well, Russians are different. They have different thinking. They are not Europeans. They have their own way of living. They are brutal. But is that a sufficient explanation? I don't think that they are by nature different from Europeans, but this is probably more or less the difference of the history of political cultures. And coming back to this imperialistic approach, what Patriarch Kirill has said so openly, I think this is a really sort of sign. It's a sort of very important political message, even if that was delivered from the religious leader. It's a political message, not only to the European Union, but it's also very much the political message to the closest neighbors of the current Russia. You probably are aware with a new initiative from Kremlin, from Putin and Medvedev, to establish the Eurasian Economic Union, which would be a sort of competitor to the European Union, which should include the countries of the ex-Soviet Union, exactly as Patriarch Kirill was in a way referring. Now Kazakhstan and Belarus have signed already this treaty. Ukraine is under the continuous pressure from Moscow also to join this union. Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, they are considering right now to establish this union. And this is now the latest initiative. You may recall the initiative like 15, 18 years ago when the CIS, the Commonwealth of Independent States, was established, where again this ex-Soviet Union countries were brought together under the one umbrella, which did not work out finally and which is now split, and some countries have left this union. Or there was another initiative to create a Belarusian-Russian union, which did not work either. But still this political thinking, this ambition to take a control over its neighbors is still very much in the heads of current Russian political elite. And I think that we in the European Union, we should be very, very much aware of this. I'm not even speaking about the Georgian War, which was a very concrete step of imperialistic action. But when we are negotiating with Russian Federation, there is another interesting but at the same time very, very specific element in political thinking in Russia, is that if they are sitting in the negotiating table, whatever the matter is, then I haven't met myself ever the approach from a Russian side to get some win-win result. It's always the situation that the partner is, or the negotiating partner is always thinking that that you try to tease them, or you try to gain more than you say openly. It's a sort of very, very special point. Perhaps I'm not even really able to explain it properly, but for example, if you just give up from some of your positions in this negotiating table with a purpose to get a compromise, then this Russian partner is immediately taking this step as a point of weakness of the negotiating partner, and they did not give you anything for compromise for a change. And this is something that at least we have experienced many times in my country's case, when we have been negotiating with Russia on many different matters after Estonia regained the independence. So it was quite clear you should keep just strong, otherwise your readiness for compromises is taken as your weakness. And that's a part of Russian political culture nowadays as well. In the case of the European Union, for example, if we are speaking about the visa liberalization negotiations, very elementary thing. Long time ago, many things could have been done already. But we only hear a lot of accusations from the Russian negotiators that the European Union does not want to move further. But if we take really the point by point, we open these negotiations, then we see that Russia has done almost nothing to meet the conditions and criteria to gain the visa freedom with the European Union. Because these criteria, they are not only especially for Russian Federation, you know, these criteria apply to any third country who want to gain the visa freedom with the European Union. But for Russians, it's a sort of thing that they either ignore or they simply want to perhaps politically postpone this visa freedom, because you know, in perhaps it's even not that much in the interest of the Kremlin power people that ordinary Russian citizens would get the visa freedom, because the political elite, the high officials in Russia who have diplomatic passports, they have this visa freedom anyway. And perhaps it's not that much in the interest of Kremlin that just ordinary people could come to the European countries in much easier ways. So it's something what also the EU negotiators should analyze and should keep in mind in these negotiations, to understand why this Russian side is not willing to move, why they don't want to apply these criteria. So I think I could go long, but I think that there is to concluding, and of course I'm very much open for the discussion with you. To concluding, I would say that in the European Union, when we are speaking about the relations with the European, with the Russian Federation, then we should know that Russia is still trying to pretend that they are democracy, and many Western leaders, it's not only about the European Union, but many Westerners are pretending that they believe that Russia is a democracy. So, friends, I conclude here, and I'm very much open to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Ms. Ojuland. We now would be happy to take questions and comments. Raise your hand. She can see you. I'm in the back right now. A number of them. So maybe could we take your group of questions, Ms. Ojuland, and then you respond to maybe 3 or 4 together? Would that be okay?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So let's maybe start to my left there with the white coat. If you could begin, yes. Yes, yes.
My name is Yu. I'm from China. First, I am so interested with the relationship between EU and Russia. But I have a question. Do you think the relationship will depend on the sacrifice of other countries, such as Ukraine or some third countries? Yeah.
Thank you very much. Let's continue. Maybe just going from right to left. Please, if you could introduce yourself and pose your question, please.
My name is Ursula, and I'm from Poland. I'm studying politics in European Union, European studies. I would like to ask you for your opinion on the Nord Stream pipeline project. What is your opinion? Do you see it as a result of the common European politics, or is it the politics made by individual EU states with Russia? So it was presented by the hosts of the opening ceremony, Mr. Medvedev and Mrs. Merkel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's take maybe two more, if that's okay.
Yes.
Let's continue in the back. I think you're next. Right, straight there. Yes, please.
I wanted to know if there was any regret in adopting the euro, or...
Could you introduce yourself also?
Eric Mollengrad. I wanted to know if there was any regret in joining the euro as far as the Estonian people are concerned, or if there's a feeling that there's a need for further European integration so that Estonia doesn't receive an invitation to the Euro-Asian Union.
And I feel like there's two more. Is that okay?
Yes, that's okay.
A lot at once here.
Yes.
Okay, maybe in the front and then to the left. Okay, please.
Hello, thank you very much for your presentation. My name is Marina Vesya and I come from Latvia, from neighboring countries. So your presentation was very close to the situation and the example of Estonia to what we are facing in Latvia currently, because we have something like 30% of the Russian minority, 45% of which are not citizens of Latvia currently, and of course Russia is keeping a very eager eye on these minorities. Like for example, 80% of the biggest city in Latvia with the Russian minority, 80% voted for the winning Russian party in the opposite to 30% in Petersburg that voted for the party. So that's a very big difference. So the question is, do you think with the current shift in the Russian policy, like for example the next year obviously the president is going to be Putin, what are the shifts in the political culture towards the European Union? Are there more challenges now? So are we going backwards with the relationships with Russia, taking into consideration the current military build-up of Russia and so on?
Thank you. And the final question, please.
Yes, hello. Denis Leblanc from France. I understood that during your presentation you give a very black picture of Russia. It's my feeling. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's a realistic picture, I would say.
I would like to hear you about positive, let's say, positive leverage that you can find in Russian leaders, or if you can define for you where is the positive in domestic politics of Russia and how you define it.
Thank you very much. And I would ask Ms. Ojuland if you'd be good enough to respond to those questions. And then just for those speakers who have just arrived for the panel discussion, we will go straight from the questions to the panel discussion. So in a few minutes we'll begin the panel discussion. But please first, Ms. Ojuland.
Well, I would start from the last question because I'm not against Russian people. This is absolutely clear. And most of Russian people, Russians, are very positive. When I'm speaking about current Russia, Russian Federation, then I'm keeping in mind the Kremlin power tandem and their organizations. I'm keeping in mind the current Kremlin political leadership, which is driving this country away from democracy, which is driving the country away from the rule of law state, who are ignoring human rights, who are just only speaking about the problem of corruption, but do not change really the situation. Therefore, I would say that the life of ordinary Russian people is getting more and more complicated. It does not really help if Putin has raised now the salaries of military people before the elections. It does not help long if they raise the pensions before the elections, because if you look at the real everyday life of ordinary people who are missing the safeguard from the justice, from the courts, who are facing the corruption in their everyday lives. So it's a quite yes, you may say it's a pessimistic picture, but the positive element perhaps in this current situation is the fact that what we heard yesterday when I chaired another meeting with Garri Kasparov and many other Russian opposition leaders who were visiting yesterday Brussels, who said that they see now, after these elections, a real qualitative change among Russian ordinary people who come out to the streets. On Monday there was more than 10,000 people in Moscow streets. It's the biggest number in the latest Russian history since 1991. They were on the streets in north, in St. Petersburg, and this is really now the qualitative change, because people are coming out because of these political problems and this political regime problems. They came out because simply their votes were stolen. This is not only about the fact that they could not vote for those possible political parties who were not registered before the elections, but they came out because they are protesting against the result of the latest elections, where United Russia is claiming for 49% of support, but all the independent observers said, and yesterday it was said openly here in the European Parliament, but that in fact United Russia may have gained only 25% of the votes. You see, such a big falsification and simply saying stealing of votes is now what is really making people moving. And even myself, I was wondering before the elections that Russian people may come to the streets to protest if their economic situation is really getting worse and worse. But now it's the fact that that also the political situation has powered them to come up to with a protest and to demand that the results of these elections should be cancelled and the new elections should be called. So we'll see that now it's very much in the hands of Russian people. I mean that we from the European Union, we can of course support their movements towards to re-establishing democracy. But of course it's very, very much in the hands of Russian people and their opposition leaders, if they are able to bring the changes for a better life in their country. So now I come to the first question, the relations. If the question from Chinese colleague. All this, if you take in general, of course, international relations are very much interlinked, and definitely there are some aspects when we are speaking about EU-Russia relations, that there are some elements in these relations which are coming from the interest or from the positions of the different countries. Like, for example, the recent long-lasting negotiations of Russia to join WTO, the World Trade Organization, where, for example, Georgia was very much, taking quite a strong positions. But now this was resolved, and everybody is welcoming, of course, Russia to join WTO. It's clear. But I think that the role of the third countries in EU-Russia relations is not really dominant. If I just make some sort of link to what I said, for example, if Russia is in negotiating table with the European Union, sometimes, yes, they may use themselves the argument that, for example, if EU does not meet the conditions what Russia is asking, then Russia may, may turn their side or their interest towards China, for example, or towards Iran, for example, if we are speaking about the nuclear issues. So these elements are existing, but I would say that they are not really dominant. In some aspects, they are existing, and we should take that into account, of course, but not really creating or building the bilateral relations with Russia on that. So Nord Stream pipeline. Well, it's already it's a long and many times discussed story, and of course Germany has been accused so openly so many times also in the European Parliament. Mr. Schröder is sort of really not the nicest word, I would say, among many politicians. And I think that the lesson what was learned from this agreement between Russia and Germany is to be taken into account in the further EU-Russia relations. Pragmatically, of course, Germany needs this gas from Russia. Europe needs the gas from Russia. I would not deny that this kind of energy treaties should not take place, but they should be based on the common EU policies, not on the bilateral treaties. And I'm very glad that also, for example, now EU has been working very hard on the treaty what is concerning Nabucco pipeline, safeguarding the European security, the energy security. And this kind of negotiations already have been based on much broader consensus inside the European Union and among the European Union countries. And now euro, yes, it's a little bit another question, not concerned to Russian Federation and EU-Russia relations. Yes, perhaps from the first sight you can say that, oh, poor Estonians, now they joined this euro when it's going to sink and so on. But in fact, I would say that I was not myself very much in favor to join euro exactly in this time. But now, after this almost 1 year experience, and even taking into account this severe crisis in eurozone, I would say that Estonia is still a winner because Estonia is the very few country inside the European Union who has a very strong economic growth this year. By the latest figures from the OECD, our growth is this year 8%, which is also the highest among the OECD countries. And this is definitely because of opening up to euro, and a lot of new investments came to Estonia already this year. We hope to continue next year because it's sort of economic benefit, I would say, but also we should see the political benefit behind it. because as bad the situation is, still we are now around the same table of Eurozone countries. We are among the decision makers. And this gives, of course, the political strength to my country and also to think how to go to the future together with the other EU countries in this difficult economic and financial situation. And this is also a fact that ordinary people, we were quite afraid, even in Estonia, hesitating a little bit, perhaps people will get upset, but it's not a fact, because if you see still the public support in Estonia towards the Eurozone, then it's around 50%. It's not that bad as it could have been. Yes, and now I probably missed the fourth question, something, but I didn't get it really. This was about some sort of Putin's staying in office for a longer time, yes, and how to build.
It was about the common challenges of
exactly,
the European Union.
yes. I think that what concerns the Russian people, Russian-speaking people living in our countries, in Latvia and Estonia, then and their attitude to vote for Putin and Medvedev, this is our problem. I would say that this is definitely our domestic political problem, that we were not able to approach these people and really to make a change in their political thinking, and still we have a lot of work to do. But as concerns yes, the latest elections and coming elections, possibly Putin staying in office for next 12 years, then here I'm really very pessimistic, and I rather share Mr. Kasparov's view yesterday, what he said, that he is absolutely pessimistic, saying that he doubts that if Putin can survive till the end of next year at all. So he predicts less than 1 year in office for him only. But I also I'm in this moment, in this stage, I would say that this cannot last in Russia. That 12 years of autocratic power cannot last in the 21st century in this such a globalized world. In the time when all people have internet and whatever these totalitarian or autocratic regimes may try to do to safeguard their power, we have seen already this Arab Spring and the other movements. I don't think it is sustainable in Russian Federation either. So I think we will rather should be ready for changes in this big country. Thank you.
I think let's take this opportunity once again to express our sincere gratitude to Ms. Kristiina Ojuland. Thank you.
Thanks.